can't help but think back over the last year. I literally had to kind of say, what's happened in the last year to be reminded of the extraordinary things that we've all been contending with. Brexit, trade wars, and impeachment, street protests from Hong Kong to Santiago, the pandemic, of course, which has kind of taken all of the air out of the room, and the economic meltdown that's followed, and took all the air out of the room until our own streets began erupting after the tragic murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis. So I guess the first question I really have as we look forward in this moment is like, how much room do boards really have for anything but crisis management today? What's kind of the tenor of the conversation now in boardroom and executive suites?
I think in most boardrooms and executive suites today, the focus has to be on how do we navigate through the crisis, or actually the multiple crises that we're experiencing at the moment. But most of them are doing it with a relatively clear eye on the longer term horizon. I mean, there are a few companies and a few industries for whom these crises are truly existential. I'm thinking of the travel industry in particular. And so they I think have to be particularly focused on managing through the current crisis. But my sense is that most other C-suites and boardrooms are still keeping their eye on the longer term horizon and trying to set themselves up to be competitive in the future, be good corporate citizens in the future, to continue to provide good products and services for their customers, to continue to provide good jobs and security for their employees, to be a good partner with their suppliers, and to be good citizens in the communities in which they operate. So you've probably noticed that I've listed all of the stakeholders that are in the Roundtable's corporate purpose statement.
Right.
Because I think that's how most of our companies have approached the crisis, which is how do we behave at this time of crisis to take care of all of our stakeholders, which in the long run is in the interest of our long-term shareholders.
So let's go to this question of jobs and wealth, which I think is, in some respects, has kind of been the defining question of the BRT statement. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, who was chairing the BRT while the work was going on the statement itself, said, "The American dream is alive but fraying." And the headline of the press release when the statement came out is, "Business Roundtable redefines the purpose of a corporation to promote an economy that serves all Americans." I guess I kind of want to ask how we're doing on that front. But in the American public, I think we're all pretty clear, is not feeling much confidence in how wealth is being allocated in this moment. But what would your members say? What's required different of them now? Or is it that they kind of can hit the pause button for now during the pandemic and, Harvard resources? Like, how urgent is the sense that change actually has to happen?
I don't think the pandemic has lessened the urgency and commitment to the principles in the corporate purpose statement. I think it's actually underscored them. Mm-hmm. And I think most of our member companies are seeing that what they need to do in order to play the role that they should be playing and make sure that they're in a good position on the other side of the crisis is that they need to take good care of their stakeholders. Now, America's biggest companies are most of them are in the relatively luxurious position of being able to suffer a catastrophic drop in demand for their goods and services for at least a short period, and still have access to capital, still be confident that they can have a going enterprise on the other side. Many of the country's smallest businesses, or smaller businesses, are not in that kind of position, and for them the crisis is more existential. But that's one reason why the CEOs of the Business Roundtable, when they gave us on the Business Roundtable staff our instructions on the advocacy that they wanted us to pursue before Congress, what they instructed us to do was to do our best to make sure that individuals and small businesses are supported through the crisis. We did not advocate for a lot of bailout the big companies provisions in the legislation. They wanted us to advocate for direct transfers to individuals, and most importantly, the forgivable loans that are hopefully keeping a lot of America's small businesses at least give them the shot at opening up, at being viable after the crisis is over.